Hello and welcome back to Alpha DevCon 2022. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management, and I am joined today by Greg Bowling, who met in our last session, as well as John Ng from Igloo Products Corporation. If you live in the US, you've certainly heard of Igloo Products and their fine coolers and other products. And today we're going to actually kick it off with Greg and talk about how Igloo is using Alpha Transform in their business. So hello, Greg, are you there?
Oh, yes.
Excellent. I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter because I believe that you've got the slide deck this time.
Yep.
And I'll let you know when I can see
There
your
we go.
screen. There it is. Fantastic.
All right. So, yeah, as Dave said, I'm here with John Ng, who is manager of quality control. John, I think something like that.
Yes, quality manager.
Yeah. So, and we're here to talk a little bit about how Igloo is using Alpha Transform in their quality control processes. So, our agenda today, we'll introduce John. We'll talk about Igloo as a company. We'll talk a little bit about sort of the area that John is involved in on the quality control. We're going to talk about how they're using Transform. We'll go through one of their workflows and then have a little video that Walmart put together with a little bit of background on what actually goes on there, where John works. So with that, John, I'd like to just give you a chance to introduce yourself and let everybody know kind of your background and what you're doing at Igloo.
Appreciate it, Greg. I've worked many places. I'm basically an engineer in heart. I try to make things better, more efficient, build high performance teams at Igloo as their quality manager. A little bit about my background on the screen, and that's about it.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about Igloo itself, right? So I think a lot of people are probably familiar in some respects with the products, but I think just giving them a little overview of the company itself and kind of what you guys do there would be very informative. So go ahead.
Oh, okay. So we just celebrated our 50th anniversary. We have about 1,200 employees on site. We have satellite offices in Irvine and in Plymouth. About 2 million square foot, 3 buildings, 2 manufacturing buildings, 18 assembly lines, 121 molding machines, and adding on, we're going to be building some of Dometic's products here, and we were recently acquired in 21 by Dometic. It's a Swedish company. They make active coolers, and it's a pretty well-known name in the EU. And we make many coolers, over 500 SKUs.
Sure. And then within Igloo itself, John, with the IQ 365 sort of program, if you want to talk about that and kind of what your mission is within the group.
Yeah, we're trying to brand ourselves per se, get more engagement from our employees. So it was themed IQ 365, Igloo Quality 365, 24/7, 365 days a year, inspected by all. Everybody has a piece of quality they're responsible for. So it's check and balance. If one guy misses it, the next guy should raise their hand and flag it. I started in 2019. I just saw a lot of low-hanging fruit, predominantly from my background in engineering and mostly electronics. I just felt the need that this paper audit is not value added, and we need to digitally transform that. So the big plan was to transform everything to the cloud, then export it back in through a data warehouse API into Oracle. We're working on that, but in the meantime, we're exporting using Power Query, hopefully Pivot, and then BI into SharePoint. Very low cost of ownership. Estimated soft savings of 145K from my department. We're now 100% paperless.
Excellent. So now let's talk a little bit about the different types of things that you're doing with Transform within Igloo in terms of some of the different processes and forms that you've managed to digitize.
For my team, we have basically 4 major forms, which I modify condensed. So we have different molding areas, such as blow molding, injection molding, vacuum form. I combined everything into one form, and I'm calling it FPI feeder and feeder audit. So an FPI feeder is your first piece inspection. My team does that on changeovers, when they set up new parts. Machine goes down for a long period of time for maintenance. We will request one. Therefore, first piece. Machines that are in process, we do our audits. So we make our rounds. Every member has an iPad, and they'll bring up the appropriate forms and perform their audits. In our assembly area, similar to first piece feeder, is first piece assembly. First cooler coming off the line, we make sure that it meets standards, it's presentable, and it's free of defects. Ditto for audit. Once the line is started to run and the first piece has been validated, we make our rounds and do like an OBA. X amount of coolers, make sure they meet our standards. So it kind of, those major forms kind of fed off into other areas. We're at 24/7, and basically our receiving department operates 9 to 5, hours. And during off shift, late at night or on the weekends, my team has to backfill and accept parts, and in this case, resin. So there's a couple of pieces of information that's required from our suppliers that we ask them to photograph and upload into the cloud. They will fill out their basic information, PO, weight, COA, etc. And one of my team members or myself would look at the material or the documents and virtually accept or reject that load. Feeder defect, this is a brand new one. We have a dashboard that shows the statuses of all our machines. Basically red, green, and yellow. If it's running in cycle, if it's down, it's running slow. So we're upgrading that software, and the one thing we don't have is, okay, so I'm running in cycle. That means my machine's up. That's a good thing. We just don't know if the parts are good. So I got an iPad on the machine I'm beta testing now, which has a dashboard of various faults that the operator would suppress if he or she sees one of those defects. We plan on having it in Spanish, Vietnamese, and English. When it reaches a certain point, we're going to escalate. So let's say my standard is 100 parts an hour, and I get 15 defects. Well, that percentage, 10 or 15%, we're going to escalate to the managers or supervisors to see what the issue is, and this will be tabulated, API'd into the other software for OEE and for us for analysis.
Yep. Okay. So within kind of the things that Igloo is doing, I just wanted to touch on some of the features we're using within Transform. One of the ones that we use quite extensively is the on-device data here. And so on the feeder audit, or I mean the feeder forms like the FPI forms, we actually have the quality standard documents downloaded to the devices as PDFs. And then within the inspection forms themselves, the operators and the technicians are able to reference those documents by just tapping the button that is associated with it. So if they're looking at a part and they're saying, well, is this contaminated enough that I have to reject it? They have the ability to refer right there, on their tablet to the actual standard. And there's an example on the right here, of one of those documents. So they're able to say, okay, this one would have passed, this one is not acceptable, for example. The other thing that we do with on-device data is we have a database, a SQLite database of their parts, and those parts have which machine they're usually run on, which mold is involved, the description, and we have some other things like the color codes and things. So this lets the technicians, the operators, just scan a barcode on the work order in order to pre-populate the form with all that information. So, they're able to just scan that barcode and know what it is and what machine it's supposed to be on, and it saves them a little bit of time. So we're kind of expanding that on the defect audit to sort of include cycle time and things like that we need in order to calculate whether we need to escalate or not. We also do quite a bit of workflow as part of this. So we use a routing on submit event to pass the forms from department to department. So a lot of the processes at Igloo start out with an operator who actually sets up the machine to run the part, and they have a whole section of the form that they need to fill out. And then once they're done, they have to submit it to John's QC team to actually perform their own inspections and determine if it's suitable to run onto a full job or not. So we use a routing on submit event. We give the operators the ability to specify who the form should go to next. But we also make quite a bit of use of the queue functionality, which allows you to claim forms. So what we actually do, I think, John, for the most part, is they'll route those to a quality control queue. And then the quality control technicians have notifications turned on their profiles so that when new forms go into the quality control queue, they get a text message and an email that says, there's a new FPI form for them. And then whoever happens to be working can just pull that down to their iPad from the queue and then, walk over to wherever they need to go to do the inspections. So we've started using that queue functionality for a couple other areas as well, like the off-shift resin and things like that. It's really been a good way to not have to really know who's working on a particular shift because they are 24/7. And I think, John, you have like 4 shifts, I think, across
Correct.
that. Yeah, so any given operator isn't really going to know who maybe the QC tech is, at that time. So using the queues allows to kind of speed up that whole process. You don't have to find the person. It just notifies them, hey, this is ready. Come over when you know, at your earliest convenience. So we do a fair amount of automation within the forms as well. So, you know, we do some summarizing, some calculated fields and things. So the screenshot at the top here is the technician or the operator will measure the, you know, the parts, take a bunch of measurements, and then the key metric for John's team is the averages, or the minimum and the maximum, the average. So we calculate all that. So there's a data group in that page where they just enter a bunch of measurements, and then it summarizes everything for them when they're done. And there's several measurements areas that are done that way. We also we pull in the current weather via an API call to Open Weather. So, and I think, John, this is something you didn't have before doing this, and so I know we were just, you know, getting early into this, but I think the thought process here is there may be environmental conditions that could correlate to, you know, a run of defects or things like that. So this is sort of augmenting that quality information that they're collecting, is that when they fill this out, all they have to do is tap the Get Current Weather button, and it goes out to the API for their location. It says, you know, give me the current conditions, and then we just populate it into a form. So I'm going to be eager to see if there's any trends along that once you get your data all pulled together. Although in Katy, Texas, I think the temperature is always like 100 degrees anyway, so you may not see a lot of variation.
It's cold now. It's about 60.
Oh, okay, good. We'll get a good month of cold data then and see how it goes. So John, I guess, you know, I summarize a little bit of the results that you've seen so far, and here I've just included some examples of, you know, some of the things that they're able to do. You know, so like John said, eliminated all the paper that they had, and I still got stacks on my desk of examples that he showed me when we first started. I think the accuracy, you know, of your information is better now. I've seen some of the filled out forms, so you do not have to guess if that's a 7 or a 9 or a 5 when somebody scribbles it on there. And I think that just leads to more confidence in the information. I think you're now able to collect additional data that you weren't before, right? So I've got some examples of some of the photos that are included in some of these audits to show, you know, here's a defect, or here's a pile of good parts, cooler lids and things like that. And I would assume, John, that you'd agree that this has sped up the process.
Oh yeah, I could spend hours looking through boxes of paper and storage for that specific date, assembly, shift information that I need for my analysis, root cause, to try to figure out what happened. Now I can just search by date and just pull up the form, pictures. Yeah, it's helped tremendously.
Excellent. So next, John, I was going to ask if maybe you could just walk through. This is one of the workflows for the FPI feeder. So I think this is people should be able to see this. Okay, it's maybe a little fuzzy, but not too bad. But I thought maybe if you just want to step through kind of how the process works, like kind of understand what's going on.
Well, basically, we go by production schedule and set up for a new part, for example, on a machine. So the setup guys will do the mode change, whatever they need to do, purge the material, color, blah, blah. Then the process tech would go in there and adjust the parameters of the machine to make a good part. And once they think it's a good part, they would submit the paperwork or the alpha transform form to the quality queue. Then we would pick it up. One of my team members would whoever's working that shift would grab that form because they would have gotten an alert saying, hey, machine number 5 just submitted an FPI to the queue. And one of my team members would grab it from the queue and start doing their inspection. Now, at the end of the inspection, they'll say, is it a good part? Yes, then they would send it to the quality technician for final approval. If it's a bad part, they can either reject it back to that process technician or submit it back to the manufacturing queue, in which case any process technician can pick it up and hopefully adjust the parameters on the machine to make a good part and resubmit.
Mhm.
Each time a submit occurs, a notification would go out via email or a text saying, hey, FPI is approved or FPI is rejected. And then the final part of it would be the quality technician approving the part and closing out the alpha FPI.
And then at that point, they start making a whole production run of that part, right?
Yes, they're good to go.
Yeah. Okay. And then finally, I think what we wanted to do is that I guess Walmart had come in not too long ago to your facility and recorded a video.
Yes. It's short. I think it's less than a minute.
Like, yeah, it's less than 2 minutes, I think. So, so we're going to show that. I think it gives you a good idea of what the facility looks like, who's working there, kinds of things they're doing. So, Dave, I think at this point, if you want to show the video, I think I can stop sharing and you can do that, right?
One quick warning, and this warning goes for every time we play a video here during DevCon. The volume of the video is often much louder than the volume of everything else. If you're wearing a pair of headphones, get your finger on the volume button right now, just in case. I don't want to blast you guys out, but without any further ado, I'd like to show you that video.
Whenever you turn the cooler upside down, you see the name Igloo, made in the USA. It makes you feel proud. So should I be looking at you? My name is Diego Quiñones. I'm the manufacturer manager. Been here at Igloo close to 20 years. What I like about Igloo the most is the amount of opportunities that offers to all the employees. Since my 20 years, I've been in 9 different positions. I started as a forklift driver. That was the first opportunity that Igloo offered me. And then now, manufacturer manager.
Tristan, y'all are making me look cute. My name is Gabriella Word. I am the Director of Human Resources. I've been with Igloo 3 years and grew up in the Cinco Ranch area of Katy. Part of my role is ensuring that I talk to employees, that they know who I am. They know they can come to me if they need me. One of the biggest benefits from manufacturing here in the U.S. is that we're able to contribute so much to the economy and to the community. We're able to give people opportunities here to have a job. We're able to give people that wouldn't necessarily think that they had an opportunity to have a long-term career. We're able to keep those jobs here for those people.
Walmart put a big order for us. It represents, in a way, a challenge because first we want to build the best coolers possible. And number 2, it opened up a lot of opportunities for Igloo and the community.
We're extremely grateful that Igloo continues to call Waller County home. And by extension, that means we're grateful for Walmart for carrying their products. A good quality of life starts with a good job. And as Americans, we work here, we live here, It is important that we produce a quality product because our name as employees go along with that product.
We call it the Igloo family because we all look out for each other. Once we're here, we're all brothers and sisters. We forget that we are here to do a job. We're just here to make coolers the best way possible and the best looking coolers that we can make.
Cool video, guys. So at this point, do we have any questions for John or for Greg? And if not, that's okay. Hey, wonderful. John and Greg, thank you very much for presenting today. I found this really quite enjoyable. Again, if you have any questions over this whole session, if something hits you later on, maybe you're watching this on video, you can always send questions into guides, GUIDES, at alphasoftware.com. Oh, so here's a question. What kind of challenges were you running into? And I guess this would apply to Greg too, when we started to deploy Transform at Igloo.
I guess I can start with that. I mean, one of them was just figuring out the workflow, because it's a pretty, John's original paper involved actually two separate forms. One for the manufacturing, process tax, and one for the quality control. And just thinking about how the, how to put that together, how best to do it, took a little bit of head scratching, and the routing and the queue work, we kind of had to tackle. I think the second challenge has been just sort of making sure the usability is there, understanding, the level of person that's actually trying to use these forms. And then I think the third one that Dan will talk about a little bit in one of his Transform sessions is that Igloo submits 2,000 forms a week.
Wow.
So I think that a lot of work has actually gone into the product based on that to sort of handle that kind of volume. And so that was, I think, informative for the product team as well. John, I don't know if there's anything else that you would highlight.
Yeah, language and technology was definitely a barrier. I mean, some of my guys still have flip phones.
Mhm.
So getting them acclimated to an iPad was a challenge. Secondly, try to get the rest of the plant engaged and try to have them understand what we're doing has been a challenge. We have our own silos, but I think we're gonna overcome them and move forward and work on some more applications for Alpha. So yeah, technology, language was definitely a barrier / challenge.
Fantastic. John and Greg, thank you very much. We're at the end of our session. Our next and final session for the day is going to be a breakout session. So just log into the content portal and click on the Join Zoom session. We're going to have multiple people there covering different topics. You can jump in, jump out, and ask questions as you like. So we'll see you there in about 15 minutes. Thanks again.
Appreciate it.
See you soon.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much,
John.
gentlemen.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.